Welcome everyone to Ask an Educator Live. Our topic tonight is paddle sports. We'll be getting started in just one moment, so sit tight. Welcome everyone to Ask an Educator Live. Our topic tonight is paddle sports. We have three panelists here tonight with us. We have Jenny Sazama, Environmental Educator 2. We have April Vaos, Environmental Educator, and Paul Klonowski, Paddle Sport Volunteer. My name is Anissa. I'll be your webinar host tonight, and we also have our Facebook host, Brett Pito, on the line. So tonight, if you are joining us via our webinar audience, here's a couple things for you to know. You can participate in Ask an Educator. That's the point of this program. If you have a question for our educators tonight, what you can do is put your question in the Q&A box. So to rewind a bit, if you are new to Zoom, these are a few things you might need to know. So take a look at the bottom of your toolbar, or it might be at the top of your screen as well. You will see a few different options. There's a Q&A box and a chat box. Now the Q&A box is where you will type your questions to be answered live tonight, and the chat would only be used for communicating with the host, or if you're having questions you'd like to ask off air. Please try not to put your questions for the educators tonight in the chat box if possible. Also, because we are in a webinar, you will not be seen or heard as an attendee. So do not worry about your camera or your audio. The one way you can communicate with us is through Q&A or, once again, the chat. So I am proud to introduce our panelists tonight. We have Jenny Sazama, Environmental Educator 2, April Vaos, Environmental Educator, and Paul Klonowski, Paddle Sport Extraordinaire Volunteer. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
So would you like to, I'll start with Jenny. Jenny, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, Jenny, we might not be able to hear you right now for some reason. Let's try this again. I can see you, but I can't hear you. Let's see. No, April can't either. All right, well, we're gonna see if Jenny can correct the audio issue, and we'll see if maybe, is April around?
I believe so. Can you hear me?
Hi there, April.
Hi,
Thanks
how's it
for
going?
joining us.
Absolutely. My name is April Vaos. As Anissa said, I'm an educator with the Lake County Forest Preserves. I've been working here for about 16 years. And in that time, I've taught lots and lots of canoes and kayaking classes. I'm certified to teach in canoeing and kayaks, and we do a lot of paddling with youth in camp and in places like midnight paddles and such. And I really came from an aquatic background, as I've been like a lifeguard for many years, and I've taught swimming lessons. So if it has to do with water, I probably have done it. So we love the water. So that's my intro. Paul?
Hi, I'm Paul, and I've been a volunteer here with the Forest Preserve since 2001. Was recruited into paddle sports and became a canoe instructor, I think, in 2005, and have had a wonderful time. If this wasn't fun, I wouldn't be doing it. This is not my day job, you know. Come on out and join us.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you, April. Hey, Jenny, do you think you are connected now?
I think I am. Do you hear me? April said thumbs up. Great.
Welcome.
Paul, can you hear me? Just
Yes.
wave. I can see you in the background too. All right. So hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Sazama. I'm an environmental educator here at the Lake County Forest Preserves, but I'm also certified canoe and kayak instructor. So I do a lot of the guided nature paddles. And I also do some things with Paul in this summer because we are unable to do in-person public programs. Paul and I are out on the Des Plaines River and other places that you can paddle in the Lake County Forest Preserves. So you can look for those videos on our social media. It's been really, really fun. And I hope you can get out on our waterways as well.
It even rained one time we were out.
Thank you all for joining us, especially in your best place over the water as well. So welcome everyone. So I just started sharing our PowerPoint, so hopefully everyone can see the visuals now. So let's get into what we're here for tonight. This is once again Ask an Educator Live, which means if you have questions for our educators about paddle sports, you can add those questions to the Q&A box. Now, if you are joining us from our Facebook audience, feel free to add your questions to the comment box, and we will try to transfer your questions over to our educators tonight. So a couple of other things to remember is to only submit your question once and only use the Q&A box for those questions. So please start putting those questions in the Q&A box now. So our first question tonight, I wanted to ask the three of you, because some people were curious what the word paddle sports mean in the first place. So what are paddle sports?
Anytime you're in a floating object and you're using a paddle to propel it. How's that?
I would agree. I would agree. And for most people, that would be something like in a kayak, in a canoe, in a stand-up paddleboard where you're actually paddling the craft. So it's person powered, not gas or electrical powered.
Could be a
Great.
coracle.
I think by Paul's definition, the river tubing I did with a paddle would count as paddle sports then.
It has a paddle and it's human powered.
I took the paddle because I didn't know if the current would be fast enough, and the paddles were great. It's not just to propel you in the water, but it's also to check the depth of the water to see how deep it is.
It's also to splash your co-paddlers.
So can you tell us a little bit about where you're at tonight and why you chose this location?
Paul, why don't you go first? You've got the best location.
Okay. We're at Independence Grove, the North Bay. It's not really a public launch, but it's a maintenance access launch just by the North Bay Pavilion to the left, from my left here. I'm in the canoe, which is just my happy place. And Jen, well, you guys want to talk about where you are, or should I tell them?
Sure. Well, I'm actually just on shore. You can see Paul right behind my shoulder. So he's kind of waving. And April's on my left. And she's like, Jenny's over. April's that way. Paul's that way.
And just to add to that, part of the reason we came to Independence Grove is it's a highly used forest preserve for paddle sports. So if you've ever been here, there's a marina and you can rent a boat and come out on a canoe or a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard. Also on fishing boats, but just directly in front of us here and a little to the left is the Des Plaines River. And there you can actually bring your own boat and put into it. So this is a really, really good spot for paddle sports. And we do a lot of our paddle sports on site here. And it's just a really great lake to paddle on.
That's a good segue for our next question. This is from our Ask an Educator audience. They're asking about where is a good place to paddle in Lake County, and is COVID affecting any places they can paddle?
One thing about paddle sports is that you're generally very socially distant. Even in a tandem canoe, 16 foot, which is a short tandem canoe, you're probably about 8 feet apart. So that really isn't an issue. A lot of people go out in their own kayaks or their own canoe, solo boats, and then you're at least a boat length away because you don't want to be slamming into people.
Right, and
places to go. On the district's website, go under recreation, find an activity, and paddling. There's a list of launches on the Des Plaines River. And also, I believe it lists Hastings Lake, Long Lake, and Sterling Lake.
And I just added that address into the chat. Sorry, go ahead, Jenny.
Oh no, I saw that. Thank you for adding that, because it is a good place to go and look for ideas of where to paddle. And it also lists generally distance or how long it takes to get from one point to another launch on the Des Plaines River. But regarding the COVID-19 and the social distancing, paddle sports is a really good sport. You can do social distancing, just as Paul said, whether you're in a solo or a tandem. But the key point is even if you want to get out there and keep your social distance, it's really important that you let someone you know who cares about you what your paddling plan is. So that way you just tell them where you're going, how long you're going to be there, and what time you think you'll be back, or what location you're going to land at. So that way they can check on you. So it's great to go out solo, but I'm always a big fan of going out with a buddy. So we just make sure we're distanced properly. But again, important to let someone know you're going somewhere out on the water.
So we have a question from one of our webinar attendees. They're asking about the big Voyager canoe, which you might need, the audience might need a little background on that. And where is it?
So the 34-foot Voyager canoe that we have in the Forest Preserves are actually two of, the Belle and the Griffin. One is generally used at Van Patten and one's used at Independence Grove, and then they're switched. We do not have any of them out this year because of the obvious problem with people paddling right next to each other. So it has about 7 rows and can fit about 17 people in it. It's a replica of a French fur trading canoe. We love to take it out in the water, especially here at Independence Grove, for either historical information or our lake ecology program, but unfortunately you will not see it out this year. So crossing our fingers for next year. So hoping.
I like that someone noticed that it wasn't there, because Paul has his camera on and I have mine on, and it is not there in the background. So good catch on that one.
If you've never been on a Voyager boat program, you should, because it's a lot of fun.
So we have another question from our Ask an Educator audience. This person is asking if they can launch a canoe or kayak at Fort Sheridan.
Not at this time. That's how I would respond to that. That was one of the first questions I remember getting from our own paddle sport volunteers, is whenever the district acquires a property that might have potential launching capabilities, that's one of the first questions we get, not just from the public, but also primarily a lot from our paddle sport volunteers. And I know with Fort Sheridan, there is no launching or landing there, and that's primarily because of still any of the unexploded ordinances. Is that right, Paul? Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's what they've talked about.
Right, because we've talked about, it's like, let's go in, like I used to do beach cleanups there, and you have to go in the water and get a water sample, and I wasn't even allowed to do that just because it could be unsafe to be in the water.
I will say there are places that you can put in your own canoe or kayak or stand-up paddleboard. One of them would be along any of the Des Plaines River put-ins, Van Patten Woods, Sterling Lake, Hastings Lake, Long Lake, which is part of Grantwood. So there are places you can put it in, just not there.
So you may have already mentioned this, but you're all at Independence Grove. Can you bring your own canoe or kayak into Independence Grove?
Yeah, you can bring it into Independence Grove and launch it at the Des Plaines River canoe launch, or I should say boat launch, because you could take your kayak, your canoe, your paddleboard out on the Des Plaines River. Just you cannot launch it on Independence Lake.
So is Independence Lake the network of lakes within Independence Grove?
Correct. And that's primarily for 2 reasons. One, they want to make sure they can manage the amount of watercraft on this boat, because as April said before, it's a very popular location. And Also because of just being aware of the spread of aquatic invasive species. So I want to make sure we're not bringing anything into this lake.
So we just had an observation by a viewer that we see that Paul's actually in your background, which is pretty cool because we can see two separate images of you. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I tried to
Paul-
do that on purpose because it's a pretty good view to see the lake from here, but also Paul's view is awesome.
Now wave, Paul.
I'll wave my paddle. How's that?
It's easier to see. Wait, do you need assistance? That's a universal symbol for I need help.
That's true. I should not have done that.
Just pat your head 3 times, tell me you're okay.
Paul, you're okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay. I didn't see the pat of the head. Okay. So let's move on. We have some other questions coming in from our webinar audience. And this is, I think, kind of a personal preference question, but is there a favorite section of the DPR that any of you like to paddle? And to make sure we all understand, the DPR is the Des Plaines River Trail. So yeah, wondering where you like to paddle.
Can I answer that? My favorite part of the Des Plaines River is whichever section I'm on at the time. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Paul.
Okay, good.
But any recommendations?
Boy, Russell
He's
to
gonna
Wadsworth
say- he's
Road, the
gonna-
northernmost,
He's gonna say all of it.
all of it, yeah. Russell to
Hey,
Wadsworth.
Paul,
you
is
want me to
there
just
a
run down
good
the
place?
different?
Paul, is there a good place to paddle now with river levels and stuff that you think you would recommend right now?
What I was getting to is Russell to Wadsworth Road has enough water in it. If you haven't been on that section, go now, like tomorrow morning. The water level is dropping. It's a very unusual section for Lake County in that it's not heavily forested. It's very wide open floodplain and savanna. And you can watch hawks and large birds soar for a long time. You've got sandhill cranes in there somewhere. You can hear them, but not see them. So they're probably walking around with their colts. And it's just a neat, winding little stretch of river. From there, Wadsworth Road down to Gow Park starts out open and then gets more forested as you get further downstream. And well, when you get more forested, you get more log jams. But you just kind of walk around them or pick your way through them, whichever works. And anywhere from there on, we'll see, Gow Park to Independence Grove is clear of log jams. We know that right now. From Independence Grove to Oak Spring Road is a very short section. It's under 3 miles. And there are a couple of log jams, but with the high water level right now, you can probably go right through them.
Hey, Paul, should we tell him about the osprey we saw last
No,
week?
it's a secret.
Okay.
We saw an osprey, but don't tell them.
We saw a pair of ospreys. That was really cool. Very near here. So I suppose you could probably see them if you just hang out at Independence Grove near the river.
Or by the lake.
What about bald eagles? Do you see any of those on the river?
Sometimes. Every couple, 3-4 years or so, you'll see one or two.
If you want to see an eagle's nest, generally people have been going out on the Fox River, off of Fox River Forest Preserve there. There is a nest that was there in their past years. I haven't checked on it this year, but that is one that people have actually paddled close to see. So, and I do want to give a shout out to Paul because he is a paddle sport volunteer, but he's also a volunteer coordinator. And the reason he knows the river so well is because he's on it constantly. So Paul, do you want to give like a quick snippet of what you're volunteer coordinator for?
The sales pitch. As a volunteer, I coordinate the Des Plaines River Stewardship Project. Some of you may be familiar with the site stewards for the various forest preserve sites. My site is the Des Plaines River from the state line to Lake Cook Road, which is about 33 or so miles. Kind of a long and skinny site. But we pick up trash, and we've picked up a lot of trash in the distant past, but lately it's been much smaller trash piles, which is really nice. We're seeing a big difference. And we also clear log jams.
That was going to be one of my questions. You were talking about all the log jams, and we were curious if someone does clear them.
Yes, volunteers are clearing them as we can. We are volunteers. It's not our day job. Most of us have day jobs, but the forestry crew for the district has been out cutting up log jams. In fact, they were out today cutting up the last of the one log jam between Russell Road and Wadsworth Road, which was a just enormous, couple of enormous trees fell in, tangled up with each other. It was just too much for volunteers. And so they sent the crew, the real crew, we call them the big boys with the big toys, out. And it's very, you can paddle right through it now and hardly even know there was a log jam.
Thank you for all you do, Paul.
You're welcome. It's fun. Like I said earlier, if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it.
I can tell we have a fun group here of panelists. So thank you all for being here, actually, I should say. So actually, we do have another question that I think Paul already answered a little bit by what he's wearing. But this person's asking about, they want to start canoeing and kayaking, but they're not really sure what they should be wearing. They understand they should wear a PFD, but where can they get one? So maybe that can also be a little bit about what you should wear, maybe what you don't want to wear on the water.
You should not wear anything with cotton or cotton blend. A lot of people wear their blue jeans and cutoff shorts and things like that. And
wait, I'll demo that, Paul. He'll just stand back. If you want to switch to my camera, t-shirt, jeans. Oh, wait, hang on. Let me put the favorite part. Flip-flops, shoes that come over here. Okay. So I have nylon shirts that's quick dry, along nylon pants that are quick dry. I have shoes that are tough on the outside and can get wet, so if I step on something, it's not going to go through them. And I have my life jacket or PFD. Very cool. Not on. Yeah. Don't wear what I'm wearing, because shoes fall off and then there's fish hooks and lures and all kinds of sharp rocks and things. Denim takes forever to dry and it gets really, really heavy. Don't believe me, go jump in a pool or a lake with fully clothed cotton clothes on an 80-degree day with wind, and you'll see how very, very cold you might get wearing cotton. In paddling world, we say cotton kills, so you want quick dry things. And great question, but yeah, and you know, we all love rah-rah, so well, most of us do.
I do want to say, as far as life jackets go, that's a really good question. The first piece of paddle equipment I got was a life jacket. One of my coworkers actually got it to me for my wedding. And basically, the one I have, I think I can show here, is meant for kayaking because it has a very high waist to it. So there's not a lot of flotation on the bottom. It doesn't have to be the most expensive life jacket, but it has to fit you and have the right rating for you, meaning it has to say the poundage correctly for you. So for instance, my son's life jacket will not fit me because it's meant for 50 to 90 pounds. But also it's what's comfortable to you. So no one life jacket is going to be comfortable to everybody. So try it on, fit it up, and see if it's comfortable, because everybody's shapes and sizes are differently. So just make sure it's comfortable or you won't wear it. And we want everybody wearing life jackets or PFDs out on the water.
And
I'd like to add that the best life jacket is the one that you forgot you're wearing. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten the boat loaded on the car, gotten everything into the car, and I got myself into the car, tried to put my seatbelt on, and I couldn't fit it because my life jacket was on. It sounds silly, but it's been a lot of times. I just don't even know I'm wearing it. And the only way you're going to find that life jacket that fits your body like that is to shop around at a lot of different stores, because you'll have this store will sell this brand and that brand, and another store is going to sell brand 3 and brand 4, all on down the line.
So the life jacket that's best for you is what fits you best and based on the type of boat you're going to use. So I think it's not a one size fits all. It's kind of based on your situation. So try a bunch on. So it's the best way to do it.
And probably best worn zipped up or buckled, correct?
Fitted properly,
Absolutely.
Have you ever tried to put a life jacket on after you're already in the water? It's not fun.
Many of the water accidents out on that occur are because people don't think they're going to be in the water. And so you pretty much assume if you're in a boat on the water, you're possibly going to get wet. So you always have your life jacket on. Never assume that you're not going to be in the water, because that's when accidents often happen. Have it on, have it tight to the point where if you pull, it's not coming up and over your head. So make sure you have it on and make sure everyone with you has it on.
I had to rescue a guy on Sterling Lake just a few weeks ago who had his life jacket wrapped around the seat of his kayak, and he didn't know enough to turn his it was a sit on top kayak, which bails itself. Basically, you turn it right side up and you can go. He didn't know that about that boat. So the boat was upside down. He was in the water. He was trying to swim upwind and it wasn't working. But take some instruction too. Find good instruction. You'll learn more than you think.
And Jenny, I think you're saying something, but you're still muted.
Thanks. I was trying to say I'm muted because I was putting my life jacket on and my proper clothing. So I'm wearing that now. And I wanted to demonstrate this vest because it is made for women. So women are differently sized than men. And so when you're out there paddling, look for something that Paul is right, that absolutely fits you well. And another thing to have on your life jacket or somewhere near you is a signaling device, like a whistle. So bring that with you.
I've got mine.
Yeah, and it's great. This one's made for kayaking, so the back is higher since there's oftentimes seats in a kayak, and then also a lot of arm movement. So it's a really nice, comfortable one with reflectors. And if you notice that Paul, April, and I all have a similar color, we want to be visible if we need to be rescued. And so visibility colors are bright oranges, yellows, and reds. Try to avoid the blues. And as we're learning, I think, Paul and I, that deer flies are attracted to blue.
That's what I had heard for many years, and there were deer flies on Jen's blue hat the other day.
Yeah, so I brought the green one today.
So we're learning a lot of new things today. And I am going to check over with Brett on the Facebook end to see if there's anything that he wants to share. Hey, Brett, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, we do have a comment from Facebook. It's actually for you, Paul. Megan says, Paul is a great person to work with. Can't wait to get back out on the water with him. So
Looking forward to it.
So you have a fan base, Paul.
Wow.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised one bit.
Thanks, Brett. So we're going to move back to some other questions from our webinar audience. And this person is asking about wildlife when you're paddling and what types of wildlife you tend to encounter while you're paddling on a river.
You're going to see a lot of evidence of beavers anywhere you go on this river in Lake County. You'll see chewed logs. You'll see lodges. There aren't any beaver dams across the river right now, but in the side channels, the little tributaries to the river, you can find some, which is pretty neat too. Muskrats are out there all over the place. We see mink occasionally, and there are river otters. Deer, fox, coyote.
Great blue heron.
Great blue herons.
Egrets.
We're having a banner year for great blue herons. Green herons, the osprey, of course, various types of hawks.
Oh yeah, we saw robin. Oh, and sandpipers. Did you mention the sandpipers?
Yes, and killdeer.
Oh, and pelicans on Hastings Lake. Don't forget the pelicans. And then people who aren't always into, I have a book that I bring with me that's waterproof that I've used multiple times when I'm out on the water. So I don't know if Anissa wants to show that, but it's Aquatic Plants of the Upper Midwest. And it's waterproof, so you can actually take it. If it gets wet, it's not a big deal.
And adding to that, I think a lot of people realize you're going to see birds, cool birds on the river. Sometimes they'll ask us about birds, but they don't ask us about the plants. And sometimes you get the best view from the water of amazing wildflowers. And I'm sure Paul could tell you some awesome stuff. I remember cardinal flower was crazy blooming one time they were out on the river. So look at the animals, but also look at the banks on the river and see what kind of awesome wildflowers are flowering out, because it can be an amazingly beautiful display.
Yeah,
Cardinal flowers are, oh, go ahead.
just starting.
Go ahead. Cardinal flowers are just starting to bloom right now. So anywhere from, oh, geez, where were we? North of Gow Park,
Yes.
and all the way down to Cook County, you'll find cardinal flowers. Brilliant red spikes of flowers. They're just gorgeous. Pickerel
Right.
weed is really interesting, but the only place I know of is up by Wadsworth Road.
Right, and so I think we're uploading some footage for Brett to put out another video that'll show a lot of pickerel weed and a lot of beaver lodges from Sedge Meadow Launch up in Wadsworth all the way to Gow Park in Gurnee. So hope you'll get that video out soon. Places to paddle as soon as I can get it out for Brett. But yeah, it's beautiful. And don't wait for the video, just go.
I agree, just go. The river is very placid in most places. It's a lot like paddling on a lake. There are some spots where there's some current where it could drag you into a fallen tree. But as long as you know how to paddle backwards and then move the boat sideways a little bit, you should be just fine.
So we have questions piling in from our webinar side, but I think we're going to check back in with our Facebook audience.
Yes, thank you. We have a question from Dottie on Facebook. She asks, what's the PFD rating on the vests?
Basically, it goes off weight ranges and size ranges. For adult sizes, generally you'll find small, medium, mediums, medium large, large, X large, large, double X, like that. Just a sort of a graduation like that. Make sure you
And
find one that does fit you.
And as April said before, get one for the type of watercraft that you're using. And mine's a type 3, so I can use it on canoes and kayaks and paddleboards and all kinds of things. How about you, April?
So what you're looking for is on the back side of the life jacket. Here is your rating. So this is for my 6-year-old son, and it says 50 to 90 pounds. So I'm good with him until he's 90, as long as he will actually fit into it in zips and clips. The one I have is 90 plus. So just make sure that it's for your poundage, and make sure it's the right kind of life jacket, because there's definitely life jackets meant for things like jet skis where you see it zip up and down and it's a little different of a fit. For canoes and kayaks, you're looking for something a little bit different. And then again, what fits well for you, but make sure you're looking at that inside and it's the right type, because there are different types, and make sure it's for your weight. Certain ones will actually flip you. If you were to get knocked unconscious, it would tip you up and make sure you're okay. So decide what kind you want, and then look at the weight and kind of go from there.
So we have a few more questions about places to paddle. And there's a question from a viewer on our webinar side asking about a cable gate across the beach access at Hastings Lake, and if anyone knows anything about that.
Oh yeah, it's not really a cable gate. There's a car top launch parking lot, but it is a little bit of a walk to the actual lake launch. And so, so you can't drive directly to it, just like you could at Sterling Lake at Van Patten. It's not really a cable, it's what we call a drop gate. So it's this metal clasp that has a lock on it, and then when we can unlock it to drive down if we need to. That's what we can do. But that's you're gonna have to walk it there. So if you're by yourself, I would highly recommend one of those little carts that you can put your boat on, or if it's light enough that you can carry it down, or better yet, bring a friend, and then they can help you carry it down to the launch at Hastings Lake. Same thing at Long Lake's launch. You have to walk a little distance to the launch site itself on the lake, but it's not too bad, because just have to be careful. There's a road that you have to cross, but it's not super busy. So a little bit of carrying your boat down to the launch site at pretty much almost every place that we go, except for Sterling Lake in the forest preserves.
Well, some of the river launches you can get really close to.
Right, I just thought of Oak Spring going, you can get really close to the launch there.
Yeah, and Russell Road.
Yep.
So for those of you who are just joining us, we are in the middle of Ask an Educator Live. We are live on Facebook, but also live on our webinar through Zoom. If you have not put a question in for our educators, please feel free to do so. If you're on the webinar side, you can put your questions in the Q&A box and we'll try to get to them tonight. If you are on our Facebook side, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. The comment section of the Facebook Live video, and we'll try to get your questions answered. We're about 20 minutes out from the end of our broadcast today. So we have another question about types of boats, and they're asking about the different types of canoes and kayaks. They're not sure what type they should buy and what they're used for.
I would recommend you get instruction for both canoe and kayak and try as many different boats as you possibly can, because the hull designs are very different and their intended uses are very different.
Mm-hmm.
You got your classic Grumman's aluminums that are durable as all get out, but they really like to go straight. And if you are on a twisting river like the Des Plaines, it's going to be a lot more work.
So the Grumman is a canoe.
Yes.
Okay, in case anybody didn't know.
Good point.
Paul's a canoe guy, if you can't tell.
Jenny, do you want to show the kayak we brought? So there's many different kinds of canoes and kayaks, and a lot of times some of it will depend on where you're taking it. So what Jenny's going to show you is our Kestrels. It is a really nice all-around recreational boat, mostly where you can take it out on protected waters like Independence Grove here. You could take it onto the river as long as it's not moving really quick. If you wanted a really fast river, you would need a river kayak, which is shaped very differently because it's meant to maneuver and not to go straight. And then if you were looking for something like you wanted to go out on the Great Lakes, you want to go out on an ocean, now you're looking for more of an ocean kayak, right, or a coastal kayak, and now you're looking for a really long and thin boat that's meant to go straight for a long time and track well, but not necessarily turn quickly. So part of it will depend on where you're going to go, and then on what kind of paddling you want to do. And I would say if you're looking for a boat, make sure you're going somewhere and you can tell them, your comfort level as far as paddling goes and where you're going to take it. Because if you go in someplace and say, I want to go out onto the Des Plaines River, I'm a moderate paddler, what do you suggest, is very different than I want to go out on Lake Michigan and I want to go on a 2-day paddling excursion. So just kind of know where you're going to be and how comfortable you are with paddling, and they can help you with that. Generally, make sure you go somewhere where they know the boats and they understand what they're used for. So and most places will let you try them out, so that you can feel, because again, it's like a life jacket. You can think that it's going to be a very comfortable boat for you, but then you get out on it and you're like, this doesn't feel right. So if you're going to spend money on it, make sure it's something that you really like.
Right, so I can talk a little bit about the kayak that we will show again. These are a basic 12-foot recreational kayak. It is on an affordable side. They're about $600 to $800 depending on where you get it from. They are not good at capsizing because they don't have a lot of bulkheads that keep the water out, so they actually sink. I've done this because I've done quite a few rescue classes with these, and they're just a little nutty. So that's the other thing I would say. If you're out there getting a boat, you should be able to feel comfortable self-rescuing yourself if it should capsize. Please capsize. Don't be like my dad, who is kind of afraid of that. It's fun. You want to know how good your balance is in whatever boat you're in, so you know what not to do so you can avoid capsizing, but do it in a controlled way that's, it's a warm day and you're near a shore and you can try it out. My personal kayak is a 14-foot kayak just because I do want to go on the Great Lakes, and the minimum length you should have is a 14-footer if you're going out in the Great Lakes. But I also wanted to be able to use it on smaller inland lakes as well as rivers. And so some of those narrow rivers, that 14-foot kayak can be a bit tricky, but it's still a lot of fun. So the ones that they rent from the marina here at Independence Grove are a bit more wide. And so the wider it is, the more stable it is. But also oftentimes it's harder to turn or to track, and that means to go in a straight line. But kayaking is a lot of fun. So is canoeing, and so is paddleboarding. It's just a really great way to get out in nature and see it from a different perspective.
So we have several people who seem to be interested in getting into paddle sports. However, they heard Paul say it's important to get good training. Is there a place or resources you would recommend if people are looking to get lessons or some sort of certification?
Who wants to go first?
Well,
I would say some places to look. Some places to look is you can go to the American Canoe Association website and look for classes or courses. You can also get in touch with the Illinois Paddling Council or the Prairie State Canoeists. They might have instructors in their clubs, or they can direct you to where you can go. We often, when we need to get our instructor updates, we will either go to the ACA website, or we go to Canoecopia Rutabaga, which is in Monona. I had to think of the name, Monona, Wisconsin. And Rutabaga hosts the Canoecopia, which is the Midwest's largest paddle symposium expo, or is it probably the biggest one in the world? I'm just going to say it. But that's what you could start your resources, especially local, Illinois Paddling Council, Prairie State Canoeists, and then also the American Canoe Association website.
Those are great places to start looking. The American Canoe Association lists instructors for both canoe and kayak and paddle and stand-up board. And you can find or search by state and find a canoe instructor or kayak instructor, whatever you want, and find one that's close to you.
And I think to add on to that, along with, getting trained and taking classes in some of the organizations they talked about, there's also smaller ones. So some people's workplaces have paddle clubs, and some people may not realize it, but their friends and families may actually have boats that they can try out and see what kind they like. So reach out to people in your circle, see if they have them, see if there's somebody you can go out with. If there's somebody that that you trust that really knows what they're doing, you can go out with them and really learn some cool stuff. A lot of what Jen and Paul and I learned is from each other and other paddlers. So get out there and absolutely spend time with other paddlers and see what you like.
I added the American Canoe Association link in the chat for anyone who's interested. So we have another question from Josh in our webinar audience. He's asking about when you mentioned the trainings, would they include how to rescue somebody or the best ways to capsize if you're going to be falling over? He's worried about going out into water and not being prepared.
Yes, that should be a fundamental part of beginning classes.
Right, at the very least, what equipment you might need, or at least how to controlling a controlled capsize, I think, is in pretty much any single class that we've ever done or seen, because it really is one of the first things to do to get really comfortable. I know when April and I became kayak instructors, they made us capsize, and that was to me, it was a little bit intimidating. So I'm like, I don't really want to get myself out of this boat into the water, but there is a way to do it for canoeing, and there is a way to do it safely for kayaking. They're slightly different. Paul, do you want to explain how to do it? You don't have to show it because your camera's in the boat, but could you explain a controlled capsize from a canoe?
Controlled capsize, basically you get your legs out from under the seat or wherever you've got them, put your legs out to one side and your head sort of to this side, and then you just slowly shift your weight until the boat flips over. You want to make sure you're holding on to the rail, the gunnel of the canoe, so it doesn't hit you in the head. That'll turn the boat over, and that's the first step in learning how to rescue yourself, or how to help somebody rescue somebody, or how it's the first step in learning how for you to help somebody rescue.
Right, and I would say that depending on what body of water you're in, if you're in a deep lake, there's a different type of rescues than there is if you're in where Paul is right now. And if you switch to my camera, Anissa, you can see that the best thing for Paul to do, although he could probably hop back into his boat if he capsized right now, is he could grab a hold of his boat or just himself, depending on how he's feeling, and just pretty much walk it right up to the shore here to the launch, because we're right there. And then I would help him tip it over so we could get any water out, and then just make sure he's feeling good before he heads back out in the water. For a kayak, I'll flip back over to the kayak here so you can see it. This is a kayak with a cockpit, so your legs are in it, and a lot of people get a little freaked out that their legs will get trapped in there. We don't have spray skirts on these. With spray skirts, they'll show you how to get the spray skirt off so you can get out of that cockpit. And essentially what you do is you bring your knees up through that cockpit, and there's that soft webbing between your index finger and your thumb, and you want to put that, I'm going to walk in front of here and show you, on the combing, just right in here, and you pop yourself out. And you really have to lean your head over before you can flip upside down. So you'd have to, that's the key thing about not capsizing in any of these boats we're talking about. Keep your head in the cockpit or in the boat. Once it goes over the sides, that's when the capsize can happen. Would you agree with that, April?
Yes, absolutely. And the lifeguard in me wants to also mention that when they teach classes, like especially American Canoe Association, we were always taught reach, throw, don't go, which means you can reach your paddle out, which Paul can probably show you, like if he could reach out his paddle to somebody who was having problems. He could throw a throw bag, which is an essential piece of equipment to have. It's basically a lifeline to be able to throw to somebody. Paul probably has one of those in his boats too.
He just gave me, I was like, he can't reach it, but I can show you. Hang on, keep talking, April.
But
I'll throw it on Paul's camera.
Okay, but do not go unless you're trained to actually rescue somebody. You don't want 2 victims in the water instead of 1. So you can reach to try and help somebody, you can throw a rope, but in the end, you need to make sure you're also safe. So if you can't help somebody, you call for help. If you're not trained and you don't have proper equipment, there could be 2 victims in the water instead of 1. So just be careful when you're out there and have good safety equipment like a throw bag and a first aid kit and things like that for such emergencies.
The first rule of any rescue or first aid situation is don't be another victim.
Right.
Paul, it sounds like you have a really smart Red Cross first aid CPR instructor, huh?
I think I do.
Yeah, you can probably guess from that exchange that's April is our Red Cross and first aid instructor. But yeah, we're gonna rescue you, but not put ourselves in danger.
And part of the training should include how to do that, how to rescue somebody without getting yourself in danger.
I hope that answered Josh's question. If not, let us know, because we could probably talk a whole hour about rescues.
Oh yeah.
So those are really good pointers. And it looks like a lot of our viewers are interested in buying some canoeing or kayaking apparel, because we have another question from our Ask an Educator audience. This person is inquiring about, are there paddle sport specific shoes that they should buy? And are there any brands that you recommend?
I don't know if there's any brands that are better than others, but if you're out on the lake, you can get away with sandals that cover your toes and heels and will not pop off. When I go out on the river, I'm wearing something like this, This thing covers
was
my
like-
entire foot.
Did you
8
pull it
inches
off your
tall.
foot, Paul? How did you do that?
No, I brought this in the boat.
Okay, wait, I'll show mine too. You show yours.
Okay, here's mine.
Okay, here. Oh, wait, I'll switch camera for a second. Here is mine.
See, to me, that's a lake shoe.
Yeah, Paul says don't wear this in the river because it doesn't have any heel protection. I don't know if you can see that, Anissa, if you want to show
What do you
it.
think, Paul? Are mine cool? Are mine passing the test?
I would like a higher top on them, but that's me.
So
Bang your ankle on something.
I think honestly, just making sure you have a shoe that is protected on the bottom, like Paul said, in case you step on something that's going to stay on your foot really well. Like these adjust, but you don't have to have it adjust. Something that is going to dry when you get it wet. These are the ones I have. I've had these for multiple years, probably 3 or 4 years now. But I will say that I paddled on Sunday and happened to notice at the last moment that my son's shoes were too small. So what I did is I just went out and I found an old pair of tennis shoes and I just had him wear that. So I'd rather him do this than wear like a flip flop or a Croc that would fall off. So although it's just an old pair of tennis shoes, you know, it's going to be more protective than putting him in Crocs or something like that. So there's multiple things you can wear. Just find something that's comfortable for you and that'll be comfortable for when you put your boat in and out.
And remember that people lose fishing hooks everywhere in water. You really don't want to find them that way. I've pulled a couple out of the bottoms of my shoes, but that's all. That's all the farther they got.
So I'm guessing April and Jenny will probably want to put their other shoe on before they get out of their boats.
My shoe's already back on. Yeah, just don't, you know, just don't wear the flip flops like this if you want to see that. Don't wear
You know
those.
how many flip flops like that we find in the river every year?
A lot.
A lot.
They never match though, unfortunately. So you can't ever get a free pair of flip flops.
Bummer. So, hey, I'm going to check back with Brett on our Facebook side. Hey, Brett, do we have any other questions?
Yes, we do. So Kate from Facebook asks, where is a great place to go for beginners? And also, is there a place with some white water for experienced kayakers?
Not in Lake County. There's no whitewater.
No, you
Where
could
we
get
are
a,
in the flatlands.
right. You would have to. I know. I live in Racine, Wisconsin, and right below the Horlick Dam, that's where a lot of the kayakers go to experience some whitewater. I know over the county west of us in Nippersink, they have some riffles that can be kind of fun, and that's just in the county over. It's a fun river to practice your maneuvers because there's a lot of curves. There's some good curves here in the Des Plaines River, but nothing.
Yeah, but we don't have the change in altitude that they do.
No.
We have a very flat water river. If you want to go, you know, a little farther afield, down in Yorkville, Illinois, there is a whitewater park. Used to be a big dam, and they had enough people drown there that they fixed the dam so people aren't going to get stuck in the hydraulic underneath. That's a big turbulent spot where the water just sort of rolls you around and around and around, and people just, it's called a washing machine basically. And they fixed that part, and they also created a whitewater chute. It's a class 2 river, class 2 chute, and it's what we call a park and play. You can park your car there, play there all day, not have to car shuttle or anything, and then you can just load your boat up and go home.
Sounds
And
like
I would say for like flat water around here, all the places we've mentioned so far are really good. Independence Grove, Sterling Lake, Hastings Lake, Long Lake. They're all, you know, pretty good beginners. What I would say as far as paddling on these lakes is no lake is always good for beginners. So for instance, when we take people out, we do not go out if the wind is above 12 for canoes and 15 for kayaks. If we see clouds rolling in that we don't like, things like that, you're kind of looking for. If there's lots of boaters out, if you're on a lake that I didn't just mention that would have power boats on it, you need to make sure that wherever you are, it not only is a good lake for that person, but it's also the conditions are right. So that's why before we ever go out, we're always checking the weather, and we're checking the put in and we're checking the actual lake to make sure it's a safe place for them. Because beginners, you want them to have a really good experience.
Right. And I would say, because I had to go teach my mom how to kayak soon, and she was just going to throw her kayak out on the Milwaukee River. And I said, no, absolutely not. We're going to go to a small inland lake where we can do some controlled capsizing, and we can do some self-rescues, and we can do some maneuvers and learning how to really do the paddle strokes before you get out on moving water. So yes, I like that question, because the beginners stay on the quiet water. And for those who have experience, definitely go have fun out on the moving water safely.
You can also find through the American Canoe Association site, flat water courses and moving water courses and whitewater courses. As you progress in your skill levels, there are more classes to take at all levels.
Great, thank you all. We have about 3 minutes left for our Ask an Educator live broadcast. For those of you who just started to join us tonight, if you have a last minute question for our educators, please feel free to put it in our Q&A box. If we don't get to it tonight, we also do have an email you can send your questions to, which I will show in just a moment. So don't hesitate to still put those questions in if we can squeak them in before 8 o'clock. So we have another question about water levels here on our webinar audience side. And they're asking, I see that after large rains, the water level's high and the river is quite fast. Is there a certain level that I should not be on the water?
It depends on your skill level. I know, well, there were a couple of whitewater canoeists, I mean, serious whitewater canoeists who would run 16-foot waterfalls, who would run the Des Plaines River, especially when it's an extra flood. It's not, I would not be comfortable doing that. It depends on your skill level entirely. You really have to know what your skill level really is, and also understand that most people grossly overestimate their skill level.
Paul, what would you say is the minimum that you would go out on the river for, as far as not being able to actually paddle and not drag the canoe?
Yeah, canoe hiking is not fun. From Russell Road down to Gow Park, I would say that there's a river gauge at Russell Road, U.S. Geological Survey. You can link to it from the Paddlesports page on the Lake County Forest Preserve site. If it's below 40 cubic feet per second, you better stay below Gow Park, otherwise you're going to be doing some canoe hiking. I know it says 10 cubic feet per second, but that was data from a long time ago, and the river has changed. It's gotten wider and more shallow. So local knowledge is always good.
I'd say get Paul's phone number and find out when he's going paddling, and then go with Paul. That's my advice. And more than likely, he'll probably already be on the river when you give him a call.
Except I turned my phone off then.
So
Sorry,
we're
Paul.
going to check back in. Let's check back in with Brett. I see we have 1 minute left. Brett, is there anything else on our Facebook end?
Yes, there is. We have one more question. Susan from Facebook asks, where can we rent a kayak or canoe for beginners?
Independence Grove Marina.
In 2021.
In 2021.
Unfortunately, the marina is closed for this season, but it should be open. Usually opens it opens in the weekends, Memorial Day weekend. And then after that, it'll be open every day until about, well, when all the kids go back to school.
Labor Day. Yeah,
Labor Day.
so
Thank you. I couldn't think of that
so
last
it's-
one. Thanks, April.
So it's open generally April through October, but April through May, it's just on the weekends, and September and October, it's just on the weekends. And it's usually open every day between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And they have kayaks there, they have canoes there, they have stand-up paddle boards there. So they have a really good range of boats to use. And they give you the life jacket, they give you the paddle and the boat to rent. So you have everything you need. The one thing I would possibly bring with you is a dry bag, so that if you get wet, your stuff doesn't get wet too. So A Ziploc bag does not work as well as a dry bag, and you can get them for oftentimes like $10 or so, and it's totally worth not having to go find somebody to get your keys at home and bring them to you. So, or your cell
Or
phone.
replace your phone. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
another
Right,
one.
double,
But it's
or
a great
double
place to go.
Ziploc. Double Ziploc, and attach it to your boat somehow, because if it should capsize, it won't go floating away. It'll stay with the boat. That's the key thing to remember. And the same thing with your eyeglasses. I have an eyeglass strap with me today. If you want me to show it, and so just pop me on the camera. And you want to put
You're
that little...
highlighted, Jenny.
Oh, good. I'm still seeing the logo, so I have no idea if you can see me or not. But here is an eyeglass strap. Really expensive, about $5 or less. Invest in it if you don't want to lose your prescription glasses or your really awesome, cool, super sunglasses that are your favorite, because that happened to me back in the 80s. They were zebra print, and I still regret that. And it wasn't me, it was my friend who capsized me. So they floated down the
It's
river
always
somewhere.
somebody else's fault.
It was that time. It was.
I was going to say, it sounds like these stories are from experience, or this advice.
Right. And these are the things that that people tend to walk off of when we loan them out at programs, because they're so comfortable. You don't know you're even wearing it. So I buy lots of extras, and I just restocked up our stash. I would say for renting a boat, though, because the Independence Grove Marina is closed for this year, just do a little Google search and see. There are some organizations around here that are leading programming, whether it's for beginners and it's just a fun guided nature paddle, or they're doing lessons. Just take a search and see. You might have to travel a little farther than Independence Grove and Lake County, but it's a great year to get out on the water. Every year is a great year to get on the water. Every month is a great month to get on the water, isn't it, Paul?
Absolutely. I'm on the Des Plaines River 12 months a year.
Just got to know what to wear. You wear something very differently in winter than you do in the summer. That could be a whole
lot
nother
more.
Ask an Educator paddle sports what to wear.
Well, it's been wonderful having you all on today on our Ask an Educator program. Thank you for all your expertise and for also giving us a cool background to see you at Independence Grove. That's pretty neat. So thank you all. Before we say goodbye, I know we're just past the 8 o'clock hour, but there's just a few things that we want to let folks know in regards to how to get more information, as well as upcoming programs. So if you haven't already, you can sign up to receive our Horizons quarterly magazine. There's also an option to sign up for an email version as well. And you can visit lcfpd.org to get more information on that. There are also many other ways to be in the loop in regards to what's going on in Lake County. We do have a nature blog, which definitely covers a whole variety of interesting topics, as well as a Words of the Woods podcast. And you can also hear the lovely voice of Mr. Brett Pito, who's joining us tonight as well, because he has spearheaded that podcast. As well as if you had a question that you were burning to ask, but you forgot or you didn't get it answered, you can always email us at askaneducator@lcfpd.org. We also do have some other virtual programs. You can definitely see a full list of this on our calendar of events, also at lcfpd.org. Tomorrow, there's an underwater discovery program at 6 p.m. We also still have open spaces in some of our virtual camps, including fishing camp and animal attire camp. So to find out more information, check out our website. And of course, we have to mention that we do have another Ask an Educator. We're here every other Wednesday, so every 2 weeks. Our next topic will be hummingbirds and monarchs. So stay tuned for that, and we hope you join us either on Facebook or Zoom. So without further ado, I just wanted to thank once again Jenny, Paul, and April for joining us, and of course Brett for being on our Facebook side. And Once again, thank you, and we hope to see you at our next event.